My family plotted to give my sister my apartment keys while I was out of town. So I changed the locks and installed cameras that caught them breaking in on live TV. Hey everyone. Stories like this mean something to you. Support us by subscribing. Say hi and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get back into the story. I was standing in the airport security line when my phone buzzed. A text from my building manager. Your sister came by asking for your spare key. Should I give it to her? My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone I was leaving town. Especially not my family. My fingers trembled as I typed back. Absolutely not. Don't give anyone access to my apartment. See, I'm 32 years old and I've worked 3 jobs to afford my studio apartment in the city. It took me 7 years of saving, budgeting every dollar, eating ramen for dinner most nights. My family always called me selfish for not sharing my success. I was barely making ends meet. But to them, having my own place meant I was rich. My younger sister Linda, 28, still lived with our parents. She'd never held a job longer than 6 months. Our mother always made excuses. She's finding herself, or she needs time to figure things out. Meanwhile, I'd been working since I was 16. The favoritism wasn't new, but it stung every single time. The manager's next text made my blood run cold. Too late. Your mother came yesterday with your sister. She said it was an emergency and you'd authorized it. I gave her the spare from the lockbox. I read it 3 times, each time feeling more betrayed. My mother had my spare key. The woman who told me last Christmas that I was too proud and needed to help family more. I boarded that plane to my business conference knowing something terrible was waiting for me at home. What I didn't know was how bad it would get. The conference was torture. Every presentation, every networking lunch, I was checking my phone obsessively. I'd installed a security app years ago but never activated the cameras. At 2 a.m., unable to sleep, I finally set them up remotely. 4 cameras. Living room, bedroom, kitchen, front door. The setup took 20 minutes. I should have done this years ago. Nothing happened the first day. The second day, I watched my apartment like a hawk between sessions. Then at 3 p.m., my front door opened. My mother walked in first, followed by Linda, then my father and my older brother Edward. 4 people. In my apartment. Without permission. I was 3,000 miles away, helpless, watching this invasion on my phone in a conference bathroom stall. See, baby? I told you it's nice. My mother's voice came through crystal clear. She was giving Linda a tour of my apartment like it was a showing. The light in here is beautiful. You could put your vanity right by this window. Linda squealed. She squealed. Mom, this is perfect. When can I move in? My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. Move in. Move in. I watched as they opened my closet, rifled through my drawers, sat on my bed. My brother was in my kitchen eating my food, drinking my juice straight from the container. My father stood by the window, nodding approvingly like he was inspecting property he owned. We'll move your stuff next week while she's still gone, my mother said, sitting on my couch, the one I'd saved 8 months to buy. She doesn't need all this space anyway. She's never home. Always working, acting like she's better than us. That's when I started recording. Every word. Every violation. Evidence. I didn't confront them immediately. I needed to be smart. Instead, I watched them leave, locking my door with my key, the one they'd stolen. Then I called a locksmith. I need you to change my locks today. Yes, today. It's an emergency. He couldn't come until I returned, but he promised to prioritize it. $300 for emergency service. Money I didn't have budgeted, but I'd figure it out. Then the group chat exploded. Our family chat, usually dead except for holiday plans and my mother's church event forwards. Linda had posted, "Guess who's getting a new place? So excited to finally have my own space in the city. Thanks to my amazing family for making this happen." My aunt congratulated her. My cousins sent heart emojis. My uncle asked when the housewarming party was. Nobody asked whose apartment. Nobody questioned how Linda, unemployed Linda, suddenly had a city apartment. Because they all knew. They all knew it was mine. I typed and deleted 15 responses. Finally, I settled on, "Interesting news, Linda. Which apartment is this exactly? The chat went silent. 3 minutes passed. Then my mother, don't start your drama. Your sister needs help and you have more than enough. Family helps family. By stealing my apartment? It's not stealing. You're barely there. She'll take better care of it anyway. You're always working, no time for a social life. At least she'll actually live there. My brother chimed in, stop being selfish. You've always thought you were better than us just because you moved out. Every message felt like a knife. These were the people who should have protected me, celebrated me. Instead they were plotting to take the one thing I'd built for myself. I landed at 11 p.m. on Sunday. The locksmith met me at midnight, charging me extra for the late hour. I didn't care. $450 total. As he worked, I told him everything. He was an older black man, maybe 60, with kind eyes that reminded me of my grandfather, the only family member who'd ever really supported me. Baby girl, he said, installing the deadbolt, family can hurt you worse than strangers ever could. Because you expect better from them. He handed me 3 new keys. Don't give these to anyone. Not a soul. I went inside and just stood there. Everything looked normal, but it felt contaminated. I checked every room. My underwear drawer had been opened. My personal journal was on my nightstand instead of in my desk where I kept it. Someone had read my private thoughts. The violation was suffocating. I couldn't sleep. At 4 a.m. I upgraded my camera system, adding 2 more cameras and a doorbell camera with live streaming. Then I did something petty. I ordered a custom doormat. This is not your apartment. Yes, this means you. $50 I shouldn't have spent, but I needed that tiny victory. Monday morning my mother called. I didn't answer. She called 6 more times. My father called. Edward called. Linda sent texts. Why are you being such a bitch? Mom said you'd be cool with this. Cool with being robbed? Cool with my family conspiring to steal my home? Finally, I responded to the group chat. To clarify, nobody is moving into MY apartment. The locks have been changed. Any attempt to enter will be considered breaking and entering. I have cameras. I will call the police. My mother's response, how dare you threaten your own family? After everything we've done for you. That phrase haunted me all week. Everything we've done for you. I spent Tuesday night making a list, actually writing down everything my family had done for me versus what I'd done for myself. The results were damning. What they'd done: raised me, fed me, housed me until I was 18. Standard parent obligations. What they'd also done: told me I was selfish for wanting to go to college instead of working full-time to help with bills. Guilt-tripped me every time I couldn't give them money. Mocked my career ambitions. Borrowed money they never repaid. Expected me to babysit, cook, clean, and contribute financially while my siblings did nothing. What I'd done for myself: put myself through community college. Worked 3 jobs to afford a studio apartment. Paid for my own car. Built my credit from nothing. Survived despite them, not because of them. I'd given my mother $2,000 last year when she claimed they'd lose the house. 2 months later she'd bought Linda a car. When I asked about it she said, you have money. Your sister needed help. I'd loaned Edward $1,000 3 years ago for rent. He'd bought a PlayStation. Never paid me back. When I mentioned it my father called me petty. The realization hit like a freight train. They'd always seen me as a resource, not a daughter. Not a sister. A bank account with legs. Wednesday my mother showed up at my job. Actually came to my office building and demanded the receptionist call me down. I watched on my phone camera, seeing her in the lobby refusing to leave. Security finally escorted her out. She called me screaming about embarrassing her. You embarrassed yourself, I said, my voice cold. Don't come to my job again. Friday night, 11:47 p.m. I was watching Netflix when my phone exploded with alerts. Motion at front door. Someone was trying to unlock my door with a key. The old key. I watched the camera feed, my heart pounding. Linda. She was alone, struggling with the lock, getting frustrated. She tried for 5 minutes before pulling out her phone. Mom, the key doesn't work, I heard her say through my doorbell camera. She must have changed the locks. What do I do? I couldn't hear my mother's response, but Linda's face hardened. Okay, I'll try. She tried to shoulder the door open. Actually tried to break into my apartment. I was already dialing the police when she stopped, looked directly at my doorbell camera and flipped me off. I know you're watching, you selfish bitch. This should be my apartment. You don't deserve it. The police arrived in 12 minutes. I'd sent them the video footage before they even got there. Linda was sitting in the hallway crying, playing victim. I'm her sister. She gave me permission. This is a misunderstanding. The officer looked at my footage, looked at her and said words that felt like vindication. Ma'am, you need to leave the property. If you return, you'll be arrested for trespassing. Linda called my mother right there, wailing about how I'd called the cops on my own family. My mother called me at midnight, screaming. You had your sister arrested? Your own flesh and blood. She tried to break into my apartment, Mom. That's called a crime. She wasn't breaking in. She was coming home. To my home. That she doesn't live in. That she has no right to enter. After everything we've sacrificed for you. I hung up. Sunday dinner was a trap. I should have known when my aunt called sweet as pie, inviting me to her house for family dinner. I almost didn't go. But part of me, the part that still hoped for normalcy, wanted to believe maybe they'd apologize. Maybe they'd finally see how wrong they'd been. I walked into an ambush. Everyone was there. My parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins. Sitting in my aunt's living room like some kind of tribunal. My mother stood up when I entered, her face set in righteous anger. We're here because someone needs to address her selfish behavior, she announced. Not even a hello. Just immediate attack. My aunt, who I'd always thought liked me, shook her head sadly. We raised you better than this. Family is supposed to stick together. You called the police on your own sister, my uncle added. Over an apartment. Edward smirked from the corner. Always thought you were better than us, didn't you? I stood there looking at all of them, these people I'd loved my entire life. And something inside me broke. Not in a sad way. In a liberating way. I laughed. Actually laughed. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. You're mad at me? Mom stole my key, gave it to Linda, planned to move her into my apartment without asking. Linda tried to break in when that didn't work. And I'm the problem. You have that whole apartment to yourself, my mother shouted. Your sister needs to get a job, I interrupted. Like I did. At 16. While putting myself through school. While paying rent to you even though I was a teenager. Where was this family support then? The room went silent. You want to talk about family? I continued, my voice rising. Let's talk about how I gave you $2,000 last year, Mom. Money I needed for car repairs. You said you'd lose the house. Then you bought Linda a car. My mother's face flushed. She needed transportation. I needed transportation. I was taking the bus in the snow. But that didn't matter because Linda needed something. I turned to Edward. Let's talk about the $1,000 you borrowed for rent. That you spent on a PlayStation. That you never paid back. When I asked about it, Dad called me petty for keeping track. My father stood up. You will not disrespect me in this house. This isn't your house, Dad. It's Aunt Michelle's. And I'm not disrespecting you. I'm telling the truth. I looked at everyone. You all sit here and talk about family, but you only mean it one way. I'm supposed to give and never expect anything back. Well, I'm done. If you walk out that door, my mother said, her voice shaking with rage, you're not welcome back. You'll be dead to this family. The threat hung in the air. Everyone watched me, waiting to see if I'd fold. The old me would have. The me who desperately wanted approval, who believed family was everything, who swallowed every hurt to keep the peace. But that me was gone. Okay, I said simply. Goodbye. I walked out. Nobody followed. Nobody called out. I drove home crying so hard I had to pull over twice. But underneath the tears was something else. Relief. That night my phone exploded. Family members I hadn't heard from in years suddenly had opinions. I was ungrateful. Disrespectful. Too proud. Thought I was better. The messages were cruel, calculated to hurt. I read every one, then did something radical. I started blocking numbers. 2 weeks of silence. I almost believed they'd given up. I should have known better. Tuesday afternoon, I was at work when my cameras sent alerts. Motion at front door. Multiple people. My stomach dropped as I opened the app. My mother, father, Edward, and Linda. All 4 of them. My mother was holding something. A crowbar. I watched in real time as my father examined my door, looking for weak points. This wasn't a confused attempt with an old key. This was premeditated breaking and entering. The door frame is reinforced, my father said, and I could hear him clearly through my audio system. We'll need to. Excuse me. A voice off camera. My neighbor, Mr. Wilson, a retired cop who lived across the hall. Can I help you folks? My mother put on her church smile. Oh, we're just trying to reach our daughter. She's not answering and we're worried. Your daughter? Mr. Wilson sounded skeptical. The young lady who lives here? Yes, and we have every right. Do you have a key? Silence. Because I know she recently changed her locks. Told me about some family trouble. And that looks like a crowbar. I was already calling 911, sending them the footage. Mr. Wilson kept them talking, blocking their path. Within 8 minutes, police arrived. I watched everything unfold on my phone, my coworkers gathering around me as the drama played out in real time. The officers reviewed my footage, listened to Mr. Wilson's testimony, and arrested all 4 of them. Breaking and entering with intent. Possession of burglary tools. My mother was crying. My father was arguing. Edward looked shocked. Linda was screaming that I'd pay for this. I sat in my office, numb, watching my family being put in handcuffs. The video went viral. Not because I posted it, I didn't. But someone at the police station leaked the body cam footage. Within 48 hours, family arrested trying to break into daughter's apartment was everywhere. News outlets. Reddit. TikTok. Twitter. Everyone had an opinion. Most people supported me. Strangers sent messages of solidarity, shared their own stories of family betrayal. But some comments cut deep. She's going to regret this when they're gone. Blood is thicker than water. She could have just shared the apartment. The judgment from people who'd never lived my life stung more than I expected. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters wanted interviews. My extended family wanted to yell at me. I changed my number, deleted social media, tried to disappear. But the internet doesn't forget. My job called me into a meeting. I thought I was being fired. Instead, my boss, a black woman in her 50s who'd always been kind, closed the door and hugged me. I'm proud of you, she said. I let my family walk over me for 30 years. Wish I'd had your strength. She gave me paid leave to deal with the legal proceedings. 2 weeks to breathe, to process, to begin healing. The court date loomed. My family posted bail and immediately the messages started again. From their perspectives, they were the victims. I'd overreacted. I'd ruined their lives over an apartment. I'd broken up the family. They created a GoFundMe for their legal fees, claiming I was maliciously prosecuting them. Raised $12,000. People who'd never met me were funding my family's defense, convinced I was the villain. I hired a lawyer. A good one. She cost money I didn't have, but she believed me. This is clear-cut, she said, reviewing all my footage. They're going to try to make you seem vindictive. We focus on the facts. The facts were brutal and undeniable. The courtroom was packed. Media. Family. Strangers. I sat with my lawyer, my hands trembling as my family entered with their attorney. My mother looked frail, playing the hurt parent. My father looked angry. Edward looked indifferent. Linda wouldn't look at me at all. Their lawyer argued it was a misunderstanding. That my mother had a key, assumed she still had access, was worried about me. That their intentions were pure. That I'd blown things out of proportion because of underlying family tensions. Then they played my footage. The jury watched my mother giving Linda a tour of my apartment, discussing moving her in. They watched Linda's attempted break-in, her middle finger to my camera. They watched my father examining my doorframe with a crowbar while my mother stood lookout. These don't look like concerned parents, my lawyer said. These look like burglars who happen to share DNA with the victim. My mother's lawyer called me vindictive, unforgiving, cruel. Said I could have resolved this within the family. My lawyer asked one question: how many times should she have allowed them to violate her home? The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Breaking and entering. Attempted burglary. Conspiracy. My mother sobbed. My father looked broken. Edward cursed at me as they were let out. Linda finally looked at me and her expression was pure hatred. I hope you're happy, she hissed. You destroyed this family. No, I said quietly. You did. When you decided my home was yours to take. The judge gave them probation and community service, suspended sentences with strict no-contact orders. They couldn't come within 500 feet of me. The judge looked at me with something like sympathy. I hope you find peace, young lady. You deserved better from them. I walked out of that courtroom alone. Winning felt like losing. I'd protected my home, my boundaries, my dignity. But the cost was everything familiar. No more family dinners. No more holiday gatherings. No more phone calls from my mother, even the critical ones. No more inside jokes with Edward. No more sister gossip with Linda. They were alive but gone. And I grieved them like they died. Therapy helped. My therapist, Dr. Williams, validated what I'd done while helping me process the loss. You can grieve the family you wanted while accepting the family you had, she said. Those two things can coexist. I learned terms like narcissistic family system and scapegoat child and golden child syndrome. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I was the one who'd escaped a toxic pattern that had been destroying me slowly. Some family reached out privately. My younger cousin admitted she'd always seen the favoritism. My aunt on my father's side apologized for not speaking up. These small validations helped, but they couldn't undo the loneliness. Months passed. My apartment, the source of all this drama, became my sanctuary. I painted the walls. Bought new furniture. Made it truly mine. Every room felt earned, fought for, precious. I got promoted at work. Started dating someone kind who understood boundaries. Made friends who showed up without expecting anything in return. Built a chosen family that felt safer than blood ever had. But late at night I still wondered, did I do the right thing? Could I have handled it differently? The questions haunted me until Dr. Williams asked, would handling it differently have taught them to respect you? The answer was no. They would have taken the apartment, then asked for more. That's what they'd always done. A year later I got a letter. No return address, but I recognized my mother's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it, expecting rage or guilt. Instead I found something worse. Deflection. I don't know why you're so angry, she wrote. We only wanted to help your sister. You've always been so sensitive, holding grudges over nothing. Your father's health is failing and you won't even check on him. When we're gone you'll regret this. You'll regret choosing pride over family. We forgive you for what you did, for having us arrested like criminals. We're willing to move past this if you apologize and make things right. But the longer you wait, the harder it will be. Don't let stubbornness destroy what's left of this family. We love you despite everything. Mom. I read it 3 times. Each time the manipulation became clearer. No accountability. No apology. Just blame, guilt, and conditional forgiveness that required me to grovel. The same pattern that had controlled me for 32 years. I didn't respond. Instead, I wrote my own letter. One I never sent but needed to write. I told them everything I'd never said. How their favoritism had hurt. How their entitlement had violated me. How their love had always felt conditional on my compliance. How I deserved better. How I'd found better. Then I burned it, watching my words turn to ash. Some things don't need to be said to be true. Today I'm 33. I have my apartment, my career, my boundaries, my peace. I've built a life that's mine, untainted by people who saw me as a resource instead of a person. Some days I miss them. Most days I don't. All days I know I made the right choice. Because here's what I learned. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. It's about reciprocity. It's about showing up without expecting everything in return. My biological family never understood that. But the family I've chosen? They get it. My apartment keys stay with me now. Only me. And that's exactly how it should be. If you're reading this and you see yourself in my story, know this. You're not selfish for having boundaries. You're not cruel for protecting your peace. You're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. It's okay to walk away from people who only love what you can give them, not who you are. The lock I changed wasn't just on my door. It was on my heart. And I'm never giving away that key again. If this story resonated with you, please share it. Someone out there needs to hear that it's okay to choose themselves. And if you're struggling with family boundaries, I'm telling you, you're worth protecting. Your peace matters. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.